Hello everyone and welcome back to Chess Programming Game Design with me. So today we've got a lot to get through. We'll start off by looking at the changes I've made to the king and then move on to how I'm checking to see whether it's checkmate. So starting off with the king, for castling especially is what I was focusing on. I didn't realize that this was a rule, but I found out that the king is not allowed to move through where he would be attacked. So what this means is if you want to castle your king, then so say these three pieces are out of the way already and you want to castle the king. Even though a piece like a rook might be attacking this spot and not this spot where you would be moving your king to, you're still not allowed to castle because you would be theoretically moving your king through that spot. So to check for that, I have done the following. So these lines and these lines. Also at the start I've added this. So you aren't allowed to castle when you are in check. So that's the first basic checking that I need to do. And you don't have to check whose turn it is because, well, if it's your turn then and you're in check, then you are going to have to get out of check before it's the next person's check gets into check, so you don't have to check for that. Too many checks in that sentence, or those sentences, but hopefully that makes sense. You can just do it this way. Now, pay very careful attention to the following code, especially the parentheses. I managed to miss out one set of parentheses and it didn't work at all as I was expecting it to. The reason for that is because AND is prioritized over OR. If you think of an order of operations in mathematics, you have something like BIDMAS. Brackets, indices, division, multiplication are on the same level, and then addition, subtraction. In logic, you have AND comes before OR. So AND is prioritized. So if you don't put parentheses to prioritize the OR, then it's going to prioritize the AND. So if you miss out a set of parentheses, what I'm saying is things will not work the way you would expect them to. So what I have added on is this, well, to here. This OR had already existed, as well as this, well, from the AND to the end, I believe. Of course, ignoring some of the parentheses in here, they were already there. So I started off by checking, using my other method for checking the squares, whether they are under attack. So how I did this was by using our doesListContainElement method, which we made quite a while back now. And we check that, so let's have this more visual maybe, move this to the side as well, and increase the size of that. This is quite annoying. I want to be able to clearly show what I'm talking about, if it lets me. Okay, so I'm checking whether, if I want to castle to the left, then I'm checking for each of the spots of 0, 1, 0, 2, and 0, 3, and whether they're under attack. How I check whether they're under attack is, well, if black attack moves the list, which we have in Game Manager, which we made in not too far ago actually for that one. If that spot is inside of black attack moves, and using our doesListContainElements, then we know that we are not allowed to castle. And the same goes for any other spot. So I check it with ORs. So I use a lot of OR gates, or logic operators, not gates in this case. So I check, does list contain element this, or that, or that. So if any one of those is true, then what happens is it returns a false because I have a not here. And if that returns a false, then that means that at least one of those spots is being attacked and I am not allowed to castle. However, if all of those return false, that means that none of them are being attacked. So I get a true with the not, and I am allowed to castle. Now I have two sets of these paragraphs in a way, if you will, because I need to check for is white, so for the white king as well as for the black king. And I do that by doing this dot is white, and then I check for this dot is white but with a not in front. Notice that. I still keep the not afterwards, but then I do check for white attack moves here instead of black attack moves like I did above, as you hopefully have noticed. Then, very similarly, I go through the same process for the other side, and this is for the right side. So we have in row, and is that, I don't think that's supposed to be 5, but I can fix that later on, it doesn't matter. So this is actually, yeah, that's supposed to be 6, I'm pretty sure. 5 and 6, not 5 and 7. Okay, that doesn't matter, that's just the column number, 5 and 6. I think I have just copied it incorrectly, because the spots that I want to check are those 2 spots. I don't care whether the rook is under attack or not. So those are supposed to be 6s. Sorry about that. And that should all be fine. Yeah, that's supposed to be a 6 as well there. Okay, so this here is supposed to be a 7, because that's me checking for the rook. And then here in the new lines, it's supposed to be 5 and 6. Like I have just changed it to. This 5 and this 6 are, again, talking about the spots in between. So that and that. Or that and that, because we don't look at when whose color it is, or whose turn it is, which color's turn it is to determine, but we only look at the king's row to determine which row we're on. So hopefully this makes sense, because the following is actually going to be more complicated than this, but not connected to this, because, well, this doesn't help us with checking for checkmate either way. Also, I think that I am going to go through the brackets there and move slightly just so that you guys can count them. There are 2 there. I did, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 there. Where else? Here there are a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there are 3 here. Hopefully that's enough to get you by. If you have any questions, do feel free to ask in the comments down below. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There. But yeah, let's move on to the changes there that I have made in Game Manager. So everything remains the same except for the method that I promised to add. That method is called can piece block attack of piece to save piece. It's very descriptive. Of pieces, actually, sorry. So what it receives is a piece, or the arguments it receives is the piece blocking, the pieces attacking, sorry, and the piece under attack. Now, the checking I do is kind of similar to the way I check for the valid moves, but then it has a few extra and a few less things. Because we already have the valid moves, so we can base it on the valid moves that we have. So, as you can see, the whole function method does look very different to what it looked when I first showed it off. But let's go through the basics. I'm going to minimize these so that you can ignore them for the time being and explain it step by step. So first of all, I have a boolean can block. This is the boolean that I return at the end. I decided to make it a variable because I think that that's the easier way of dealing with it. Instead of, so if I wanted to change it in the middle of the function many times and then return the final result, I can just return the variable instead of returning at that point and not having the method finish its whole cycle. So that's why I have it, although I never really used it that way, but it doesn't exactly matter. If you really want to, you can just put return true inside of here, but I have decided to do it this way, and I'm going to stick to it. I will explain what that does as well. So that's my variable and the explanation for that. Then I have a piece called piece attacking, and that takes the first element inside of this list. Don't worry about that too much for now, because I haven't explained why I have done that. Then I make a new list, piece blocking valid moves copy. This list copies all of the valid moves of this piece, as you can probably see from this over here. And I do this so that it makes dealing with valid moves of that piece easier inside of these 5 statements, inside of these 5 long if chains, whatever you want to call it. That will come useful later on, but for now you have an idea of what it is. It's just a copy of the valid moves. Then the checking I do is an if and an else here that I have. So if the length of this is greater than 1, i.e. if there are more than 1 pieces attacking the king, from what I've seen, the maximum is 2, the minimum is 0. But if there are more than 1, that means that if there are 2 pieces attacking the king, then, well, I can't use another piece to protect the king. So I just make sure to clear all of the valid moves from the other pieces and allow the king to move himself.